So I just wanted to point this out. I thought it was pretty hilarious. So this is the website QZ.com. The guy who created the iPhone's Earth image explains why he needed to fake it. So we're just going to look at this article real quick. I'll basically read the whole thing just because it gets interesting. But it says here, pulling his iPhone out of his pocket at a conference cocktail reception, Robert Simon performs a parlor trick few can match. He shows the phone's lock screen. Up pops the image of planet Earth that is familiar to millions, the default image on the first iPhone, which was dropped from Apple's mobile operating system in 2012 to the dismay of many. This one is mine, he says. As it turns out, much of what one might assume about this beautiful image is not true. It wasn't commissioned or paid for by Apple. It isn't actually a photograph of Earth. And the blackness surrounding it, that's not space either. We continue, but the story behind the much admired image that introduced the world to the iPhone, known as the Blue Marble, is worth telling in its own right. Simon, a data visualizer and designer at NASA's Earth Observatory, created the image in 2002. He told courts it's not a photograph, but a sophisticated visualization. Images of the Earth may seem commonplace, but there are actually very few pictures of the entire planet. The problem, Simon said, is all the NASA Earth-observing satellites are in low Earth or geostationary orbit, meaning none of them are far enough away to see a full hemisphere. The most familiar pictures of the entire Earth are from the 1960s and 1970s Apollo missions to the Moon. It continues, as realistic as it looks, the image is a composite of 4 months of light data collected in 1,429-mile wide bands as NASA's Terra satellite orbited pole to pole and the Earth rotated beneath it. The data was then stitched together and applied to the surface of a digital ball and then modified in Photoshop. Let's continue. So Simon readily admits that there are numerous fakeries in his image. The atmosphere is a Photoshop blur. Some of the clouds are collaged together using Photoshop's clone tool to cover gaps in satellite's coverage. The black area around the Earth is not the void of space. It is simply a background of black color that Simon placed the Earth on top of. This is standard practice, Simon says. Most actual photographs of the Earth, including the Apollo images, present the planet on a black background. Without these alterations, the image wouldn't look very earthy-like, Simon said. He based his manipulations on reality, in the sense that I've looked at a lot of imagery to see how thick should that be, how blue should that be, but he later added, it's more hyper-realistic than realistic. So it goes on from there, and Archer, why don't you tell me what you feel about that? Or you might want to start off with just telling everybody who you are, where you're from, and what we're going to do tonight. I can hear you fine. I'll make sure everybody else can too. Let's see here. 1 second. I want to make sure everyone can.